Hello, lighthearted Rainbow Tribe. In our year of oneness, let us give ourselves this moment of one to just breathe and be. It's not something we have to achieve, to recognize that it's already here. The light is already here. The language that has come through me more recently has been about being a warrior of and for the real, or a lighthearted medicine person, a lighthearted warrior, lighthearted medicine person. But it's actually not being anybody at all. It's the recognition of something within us that is determined, strong, capable, powerful enough to be real, to be this real. We are so bound up in so many degrees of fear. It's not okay to be me. If people saw who I really was, I'd be rejected. And we believe that because we've experienced it. And we also experience ourselves rejecting others. So, we're on both sides of the coin all the time if we really tell the truth. And that's what being real is all about. It's telling the truth. So, our vulnerability is an internal-external dynamic. And because we attack ourselves, we learned all of this as we lived and were attacked, that this is what human beings do. This is how you are a human being. This is the way it is. And it doesn't feel right, not to any of us. Yet we participated in all day long. And so the practical aspect of, the fancy words, I'm a lighthearted, peaceful warrior of the real. I'm no one at all, but this is what's here. This is what arises to express itself as something that stands strong for the real, the truth, the actuality of beingness. The world our hearts know is possible, to quote Charles Eisenstein. The more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. And because this is within us, in our hearts, in our souls, in our guts, to a lesser degree in our minds, probably the least degree in our minds, because our minds are all caught up in identity and war with self and other. And that's not the kind of warriorship I'm talking about. The warriorship of no enemy, of loving what appears as the enemy, which is truly within us. And so when the enemy within is loved, adored, appreciated, recognized, tended, entered into, met with, we discover when we undress it, when we're really vulnerable to it, and get really naked in our truth, it's not at all what we thought it was. Surprise! We don't get to have that, though, without some excavation, without digging in to what's really going on inside us. And frequently, what's going on outside us in our external mirroring of our internal consciousness drives us, if we let it, inside. And frequently drives us inside to things that we would rather not have exposed. Not to ourselves, not to anybody else. And we live in terror of this exposure. Because something within us that we believe, we are convinced is horrible. If we were to discover it, it would be admitting something so awful about ourselves that seems unforgivable, let alone unlovable. Because I think unforgivable is even worse. And so this is where the doctrine of original sin came in, is in the identification with the body and the belief that we are something other and that we have been cast out of heaven. We miss the truth of the heaven that is here all the time. It isn't anywhere else. It's that we're blind to the fact that it's here. The actuality of being is itself all the time, and that is inclusive of this planet. So it's real, but it seems unseen, unreal, invisible, because we have not the eyes to see, and the still small voice that would guide us there and help us to recognize it, we're not listening to. We're deaf. We don't have the ears to hear. So when you hear me encouraging, listen, be still, become accustomed to listening to the wisdom that's in the body, that's in the heart, that's in your soul, every aspect of you, and utilizing the mind not to try to figure shit out, not to be all-knowing, not to be an expert, not to understand it all, but to open at a deeper level where it's already so, and discover what it means to accept. Ask ourselves, I love inquiry, asking really good questions and diving into them. Is it possible to accept that I am, as I am, a child of the living God, existing in the heavenly domain, on earth, right now? And when all of the objections begin to surface in our system, and our minds and our hearts start going, no, 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 I can't accept that. That's not possible. I am not there. Then that becomes the doorway. How come? What is it that seems more real and more true to you than what is actually the truth? Asking those questions, diving in, not having answers, but being right in the direct experience. I really believe I don't get to live in the kingdom of heaven. I don't get to allow this to live as me. I'm not there yet. What an insidious belief that is, and how much power we give it. Are you ready to really challenge that? Are you ready to say that the figment of your imagination, that is this I that's been exiled, doesn't exist? It's a self-judgment which has been learned. It's been learned at the knee of those who purported to love us, who rewarded and punished us, withheld love, and gave love based on what they said was good or bad. They taught us duality. Why? Because that's all they had. They had oneness and unity consciousness. They'd have given us that, but they didn't have it. It's now that it's penetrating out into the mass consciousness. And we are those beings who are involved in that directly. We wouldn't be listening to this. Can you accept that? That this is your purpose on earth? To bring forth what is actually already here, to know it with certainty in your own being, and act with confidence that it is so, opening into the experience every day as if your life depended on it, that there's nothing more important than the total realization and aliveness of this. There's no being a medicine person, a healer, or a warrior of any kind unless this is your sole purpose. And I mean that in both meanings of the word. Your only purpose, your sole purpose, and the purpose of your consciousness, which it actually is. It's already there. The purpose of our consciousness, which is what our soul is comprised of, is to live fully in the truth of what actually is. That may or may not have anything to do with making a lot of money. We don't know. Some of us are not drawn in that direction. Others of us are. There's no right way or wrong way. And it's certainly not all this craziness that people are making themselves. You know, I'm going to manifest what I think I should have. The demonstration of the presence is the recognition within oneself of who one is. How that plays out in the manifest realm is how it plays out. This is at play. When our whole being is unified and vibrating in this ever-revealing truth, our world changes. And it's not a selfish matter at all, but it includes the personal existence. There's a real distinction there. As a lot of us judge and condemn ourselves for egoic selfishness, because the only thing that can be selfish is the ego. The presence of love is not selfish. It doesn't have a self. How can it possibly be selfish? So you can only be selfish if you believe you are somebody. And that's just a mistaken belief. Give it up. Discover what's actual and real. One of our basic human needs that I hear from people goes frequently unmet is the need to be seen. And we have this need at a lot of different levels in our systems as they're coming home to the light. To be seen in our darkness, our shadowy aspect, in our vulnerability and frailty and exquisite senses of aloneness and pain, as well as to be seen in the glory, the bright light, the gorgeousness, the freedom, the truth that's alive in us. To be seen wholly, both W-H-O-L-L-Y and H-O-L-Y, in our perfect flawsomeness, flawed awesomeness, and accepted and adored in the totality of ourselves. Now, it's true of our beingness. There's nothing else going on from the essence of our being. Our true nature adores us exactly, wholly, and completely as we are right now. Flossom. And one of the things that was playing through my consciousness today was that the infinite invisible is always revealing itself, making itself visible. In order to be seen, it must show itself. So it reveals itself. And it's revealing itself right now in the beautiful blue sky and the wind and the trees and the lapping water of the lake and the mountains and all the gorgeousness that is here. And it reveals itself in the middle of the concrete towers, which we don't make very pretty much anymore. I mean, people are finding a more modern version of these towers to materialism, trying to make them more more aesthetic, I suppose, but not really. We keep creating places that are all about making profit, materialistically based insanity. And when you look at older architecture, you see there was something else going on there. It's not hard to see where we're at as a collective consciousness. It's evident everywhere. So we do show ourselves. And yet we remain terrified that if you see us all the way in truth, that we really want you to, and we really want to feel that with our fellow human beings, we are as equally terrified that you'll see what we're terrified we're going to see if we actually see ourselves, is that ultimately we are right to be exiled, rejected, abandoned, to the hell realms of separation. It's not true. But we learned it. We are convinced of it, and it's operating unconsciously and driving us crazy, to distraction. All kinds of distraction. Anything to get away from this pain, this awful terror, this abject wretchedness. So the warrior, this upright, clear, determined, bright light of being, says, not going to play there anymore. I'm going to do whatever it takes to discover the truth that has been revealed. Whether it's been revealed to us directly or whether we've read about it. And I kind of had both when my due date came. I had had beautiful open experiences and, in and out and in and out. Felt connected, disconnected. I couldn't stand it anymore. And I had read enough about people who were sages and mystics and enlightened beings or whatever to know that they somehow managed to exist there consistently. And so I didn't know if that could happen for this broken person, this miscreant, this less than loving all the time, very human person of unfulfilled needs. suffering and pain. It wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always offering gorgeousness and love and beauty and truth to the world, but sometimes was just hurt, incapable, not there. So I knew about grace. I knew that grace saves the wretched. I didn't know if it would do it for me. That's a powerful not knowing, because there's a possibility in there. It says, maybe, I don't know. There's a part of me that's convinced I'm getting what I deserve, because somehow that was true. But I was also unsure of that, because that wasn't what was taught. It's not about deserving grace. You can't deserve grace. You can't earn it. It's not like earning a living. We're given to live, and living to give. That's the simplicity of it. And so I stayed. I had no idea. I wasn't working anymore. I had 2 people who came to see me, only one of which had anything to offer in terms of monetary support. I might have been on food stamps. I don't remember. Probably not. So I was living on maybe $200 a month. I got evicted. I started living in people's spare rooms and couches. I didn't know what was coming next, if anything. That was already post the awakening. And so there was a confidence that was all moving in a certain direction that I had seen, but I didn't know how I was getting there. But in the place of darkness, in the place of feeling exiled from something that I knew wasn't possible, I had that information, that sensibility, but I didn't know how to get there from where I was, except for that it was a matter of grace and I wasn't in charge of that. But the warriorship, the determination or the stubbornness or whatever you want to call it, that said, I want this presence, this love, this truth, this holy being, to be me, to be the truth of my life, to be what is alive here, whole all the time, or I don't want to be here anymore. Now, some people don't feel like they have that luxury because they have kids, or they have family, they have people to be responsible for. It's very odd to say that I had the luxury of not having that. It was a very painful absence of not having that. And not ever really even feeling that I had it, even when there were people who said they were my family. We were related by birth. There's some love there. But it didn't overcome the difficulties. Not enough. But what if it's the best gift that you can give? Is to take that time out and say, excuse me everybody, 40 days and 40 nights, I'm gone. I'm going to devote myself, and if I die, I die. Yeah, they might even be upset. They might even say, if you're going to do that, I don't want you to come back. Are you willing to risk it? Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe it's not your time. But it's good to ask yourself. It's good to really consider this. It's good to look deeply in and go, what is my life about? Where do I stand? On holy ground, or in some impermanent shenanigans of trying to make life work and control things? These are hard truths that we tell ourselves, but they're the ones that begin to set us free. So we look in the mirror, and we do it every day. When we're transparent, the truth reveals itself clearly. And we are the transparency and the invisibility that goes unseen. We are the expressive aliveness of being that goes unheard. And we miss that. We achingly, terribly, wretchedly miss that. And thus our world is a disaster zone. There's some good news for you. The good news is that what we long for most is here. It's here, and it's active, and it's alive, and it's engaged, and it's speaking right now through this vehicle. And if you're listening and you're hearing and there's something in you that's responding, it's this. It's all that's really here. And it wants what is best all the time, everywhere. That's its purpose. That's our purpose. So may all the world recognize what actually enlivens them and rest in peace and be brought forth in loving action to make the world the place that we know in our hearts is not only possible, but I can attest from personal experience is already here. Much love and many blessings on your journey. Thank you for listening.